going on, everybody? Welcome back. We're kicking off the new year, 2021, with a little bit of catching. Kind of some things that we see in the area, kind of some things that we see when we go to showcase tournaments and stuff like that, with kind of misconceptions of what everybody thinks catching really is. If you're new to the channel, we post once a week, every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Go ahead and drop down below, give this video a like if you find it helpful. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you want to see future stuff like this and kind of stay up to date with everything going on with FBA and how many kids we're sending to college this year. So if you're a catcher, stay tuned because we're going to get going. Hey everybody, we made it. We pushed through 2020. We're here in 2021. Catchers, go ahead and stay tuned. I'm going to put everything that we're going to be talking about on the screen over here. Coaches, go ahead and listen in because there's going to be some good information here for you to teach your catchers, as well as just some kind of things that I believe is very important and kind of not something that's very talked about with catching in particular. Let's go to the dish. All right, so the first thing we're going to kind of talk about is the stances of a catcher. All right. For me personally, I consider there to be three: sign giving, primary with nobody on, and my secondary with runners on, right? So kind of the big thing that I see is, especially in a young age, kids don't necessarily have a consistent setup with where they're going to be at, right? Sometimes their glove may be here on the ground, you know, kind of here where it's blocking something. The only people that you want to be seeing your signs is going to be the pitcher, the middle of the field, and then your center fielder, if he can see that far and you're on a little field. But reason being, they're gonna go, the pitcher obviously for throwing pitches, okay? And then my middle infield's gotta know because they're gonna position themselves based off whatever I'm calling. Center fielder is just kind of relay from the shortstop or the second baseman, whichever one is deemed the captain or the leader of the infield, which should be the shortstop. If you are not the leader as a shortstop, you need to find a different place to play. So kind of going in with the sign giving stance, all right? I kind of want my toes fairly close together on the balls of my feet, and you know, my glove I won't have on the side of my knee where I'm shielding my signs from the dugout, the coach, whatever the case may be. My sign's got to go right up against my cup, so that way that basically making a V with my legs towards the middle part of the field, so that way I know who I want to have seeing my pitches. So the next part we're going to talk about primary stance. A lot of times I see poor mobility in catchers, whether it be their ankles, their knees, hips, whatever the case may be, to where they're not very comfortable. If you don't have a stretching program for yourself as a catcher, you need to establish one or find somebody that can tell you one. Or if you like the video and email us, we'll get you one. But at the same time, if you don't have a stretching routine where you're progressing to get stronger, because stretching is going to ultimately give you strength in your legs, and you're going to be more flexible, you're going to be able to move more. So if I can't get to a comfortable position where both my heels are on the ground and I'm able to sit low in my stance and give my pitcher a good target the whole time, then again, some of the things that I commonly see is I may see one heel up in the air like this, or I'll see a catcher who says he's in his primary and his butt may be up here, and his secondary gets to up here, which is, it's insane, right? So you got to make sure, again, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with going from a knee, which is kind of being the new thing that everyone's talking about nowadays, but I want you to think about this before you think it's the end all be all. If I teach myself at a young age to catch from one knee, and I don't have a pitcher who's consistently throwing the ball where he wants to throw it, it's going to do me no good. Yeah, I'm going to give him a low target, but if he's throwing the ball high or erratic and I got to get up out of that position and go find the ball all the time, it's not going to be very good. And think about this. If I teach myself to stay on one knee all the time, and then I have to go to a block in a secondary, what's my natural tendency going to be, since I've taught myself all the time to go from a knee? Me, I'm very old school in a sense where I need to get to a state where I trust my hands all the time when I'm receiving, and I create that muscle memory of being able to go to a block with two knees. And that's kind of another big thing that I see a lot of is catchers blocking with one knee and not having the confidence or the want to go get that ball. So the next one's our third one is going to be our sign, or the third one's going to be our secondary. A secondary, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but I want you to think about a position that you can get to where you can throw, receive, and block from that same position in all three aspects, right? So for me, I was kind of here because I was very flexible with my legs when I played, and I was able to move a lot better, obviously, than now. But at the same time, you got to get to a position where you can block, receive, and throw guys out. So another important thing that I see that's misled a lot of times by catchers is their target that they're giving. You have to realize that a pitcher is not the most intelligent person in the world. There's a reason why they have one job, which is to throw strikes. Nothing else. That is their only job. Therefore, you as the catcher has to be the brains of the operation. Make sure you're taking care of their butt, because whenever they get the win, they get the credit. You get the loss, well, they still get the loss on paper, so you don't have to worry about it there, but you might not be starting because that pitcher doesn't want you to catch them. So, talking about the target of a glove, all right? When I give a target, I should be able to keep the glove in an area where it's not going to move as much. A lot of times people want to get to an area where they're moving down and moving. If my target is moving the entire time, the pitcher's eyes are going to follow it, and it may throw him out of whack, all these different things. Again, this is just my belief in these things. This is not me telling you that my way is the best way ever, okay? But if you want to kind of play it old school and kind of get to a hat where you create good habits, to where you can sit here and you can move your glove a little bit and stuff, but you just got to make sure you're not getting to a point where you're dropping it all the way out here and then going to get it. Because what people don't think about is when I ever go to receive a ball, I have to beat the ball to the spot. If I can't beat the ball from right here, I'm not going to have a very good career, and I'm probably not going to be starting because I can't receive well. Moving on to a different part, other than receiving, we're going to talk about the mentality of a catcher. If you are literally not somebody that's going to run through a freaking wall and want to go beat somebody's butt as a catcher, you can't be a leader, which is honestly, that's what you do. You are the only person that can see the entire field that's in front of you and be able to call the shots. You should be the loudest person on the field. You should be in charge of everything. You should know what's going on. If somebody's off kilter or whatever the case is, you make sure you put them back in line, because this is your team at the end of the day, and you've got to be a captain. Okay, kind of leading along with the mentality aspect. Pitch calling. For reasons I may not understand, I think it is absolutely ridiculous that catchers are not allowed to call a game, whether it's in high school or college or college I can understand because you got to win, the coach has all control over that stuff, whatever. But in high school and in middle school or in travel ball and like kids growing up and developing, how are you going to train them to be a robot if they can't call a simple game? How are they going to learn? Because sooner or later, I mean, look at the big leaguers. They're calling their own game unless it's somebody they really don't trust, which most of the time if they don't trust them, they wouldn't be there, right? So coaches, this is for you. Let your kids start calling games. It is going to benefit them in the long run. If you just want to have so much control over it and just kind of tell them what to do all the time, then they are not going to have a very long career, because you have to dictate every single thing to them. My catchers, I let them go. The best way they're going to learn is in the atmosphere of the game or in the reality of things. I can't sit here and tell them what to do every single time. I like to let the catchers call the inning, and then we come in, we talk about each batter, we talk about what we could have done better, what didn't go well, and then the pitcher's also got to start learning these things too, learning what he's successful at, learning what he has command that day, all those different things. Catchers, you have got to make sure you're catching as many bullpens as you can, so that way you can see your pitchers so you know what they have. Travel showcase stuff's kind of different, but high school stuff, like make sure you're catching those guys, so that way that you can continually see what they're throwing, see them progress, so that way you can basically call the best game you can. As a catcher, you should be somebody that is what they call a student of the game. What that means is somebody that is continuously learning as they grow or as they get older, whatever the case is, okay? I don't care if you're 12, 13, whenever you can start comprehending things, the sooner the better, honestly, because with the attention span of everybody nowadays, it's really hard to kind of teach in that aspect anyway. But at the same time, you got to start as young as you can, and especially if you truly don't want it on the inside of you as a player, as a catcher, it's going to show. And honestly, it's going to, if the coach isn't teaching you anything as far as it being a catcher, which, I mean, there's tons of things that you can learn as a catcher, especially growing up. I mean, I was learning from the time I was done playing, and I'm still learning now, even from other guys, like professional guys who are pitchers, just kind of hearing all these different things about how I can teach guys to be better at catching, or whatever aspect I can help them grow at or develop. So kind of coming back to the coaches, when you constantly tell your kid what to do and what pitches to call, he is not thinking. We call that a robot in the baseball world. You have got to let them play the game for themselves. That's the only way that they're going to learn. And it might take time, but nothing in this game is simple. If it was that simple, everybody would be playing in the big leagues. But guess what? There's only, 32 teams with 25 players on a roster. So whatever that times that is, how many people can play. If it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. So just to wrap up some takeaways to think about. Make sure that you are learning every single time that you are able to be on a baseball field, hopefully around somebody that you trust as a coach who had prior experience of playing at a high level or anything like that. Remember, think about your primary stance. I gotta be in a comfortable position to where I know the middle of the field is the only ones that are seeing my pitch calling. Primary is going to be one of those things where I got to be comfortable in my receiving stance, sitting on kind of a wide base, a good foundation where I can sway or move or any of those things, just kind of shift to get those strikes on the corners. And my secondary, remember, I have to be able to receive, throw guys out, and block from that position, whatever that case is. But again, when I say receive, I mean you have to give your catcher a good target too, to where I'm not basically standing 3/4 of the way up, and I can do all those three things. But you got to be in a situation where the pitcher feels comfortable throwing to you, as well as you being able to do the other things we just talked about. And then the mentality. You got to be a hard-nosed dude if you're going to be a catcher. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to be so psychotic in your mind that you are constantly analyzing everything. And the best way that you can do that is to learn how to call your own game. Learn how to read batters. Learn how to watch the way that their hips or their hands, or what kind of batters do what. Kind of keep a running scorebook in your head, so that way you know how to call the next time he comes through, what his weaknesses are, what he can or can't do. That's kind of a big aspect of learning it. You don't want to wait till high school or college to learn that. If you can do it earlier, by 13, when you start playing on the big field, that's when it starts. But all right, everybody, if you like the video, please go ahead and consider giving it a like, give it a thumbs up. If there's other things that you want to see as far as instruction or informational type things, go ahead and leave a comment down below. We'll see you next week.